A technical glitch resulted in over 700,000 beneficiaries not receiving their grant money. Some of this was due to a post office strike. Now, the post office also says it's finished upgrading its IT system, allowing it to use the new SASSA cards. Joining me now is the post office CEO, Mark Barnes, to talk to us about the situation which unfolded on Wednesday.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes. Firstly, talk to us about how the process of giving beneficiaries what is due to them went on Wednesday the 1st.
Listen, a huge improvement on July. In fact, we yesterday paid more money out than we paid out in the whole of July. I think we've now paid out in excess of R1 billion. Paid 1.26 million beneficiaries yesterday through the various mechanisms. We had upgraded the speed of the IT system from, I think we were operating at 20 transactions per second. Yesterday we were averaging between 50 and 70 transactions per second, which means that people weren't locked out of their transactions. We had a pilot system for the new pay points that we're replacing CPS. 100% of those people got their money. So we're delighted, quite honestly, that we're now sitting at close to 3 million beneficiaries onboarded, and everything yesterday finally came together. You know, we have the benefit of technology. We've got a WhatsApp group. We call the project SASPO now, which is SASPO, which is a combination of SASSA and Post Office. And I've got like a 24-hour feed on what's happening on the ground. We had a couple of issues yesterday. There were a couple of burglaries at two of the post offices the night before. There were some CRT delays in the cash arriving. But at the end of the day, a huge difference from July, and it was welcome because this is our second last month before we take over completely from CPS. What
channels are beneficiaries able to use? Because you're also saying that they do not have to queue at the post offices. So what banks are you partnered or have you partnered with, and how did that process go?
So there are 4 channels principally. The money actually gets loaded the night before. So at midnight the night before, it's on the card. You can then access it via a post office branch. You can access it via the national payment system, which includes all banks that have got auto banks. Okay, so you can literally use that card anywhere you like. You can on the banking system. You can use it with merchants. The main merchants there are Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Checkers, Spar, all of the players that we would see our beneficiaries going to. And then of course you can actually get it at a post office. So merchants, ATMs, anywhere that's got access to the national payment system, and now at the cash pay points where we are physically manning them to replace CPS.
So how much ground have you covered thus far for the month of August?
Well, it's the first day. I think the payments go over 3 or 4 days. But yesterday, as I say, we paid out a record amount. I saw the graphs of performance. Tiny little instances where the feedback time wasn't fast enough, but we've paid out over R1 billion already. So we're now up to 2.93 million of the beneficiaries. There's a total of 10.7. About 2 or 3 million of those are with commercial banks. The others are going to be swapped out. And it's important for beneficiaries to know that this is the month where they must finally swap out, because as at the end of September, the old SASSA card stops working and the new SASSA card, the gold card's in play.
And that's the next question I want to come to. How far are you in phasing out the old SASSA card?
The challenge was the Constitutional Court order, which required us to phase out the cash payment system by the end of September. That is on track and that'll happen. Okay. As far as the swap program is concerned, as I say, we're up to 3 million. We think that there's plenty of time to swap those out, okay? But we urge people to do it as soon as possible. We see a world where we will have up to somewhere between 5 and 7 million of the beneficiaries on our system. Others will use merchants, others will use the commercial banks. In time, because we've got a lot of freebies. If you're using a government organization, if you're using an organ of state, you essentially get 1 free withdrawal from the post office, 3 free withdrawals from merchants. There are no fees. There are no unauthorized deductions, and that's the difference when you've got a state organization exercising a state mandate. And that's what drove this whole issue.
The burglary at Vryheid in KwaZulu-Natal must have put a spanner in the works. I know you spoke about it earlier, but were you able to resolve that situation? Absolutely. And what systems are in place to make sure that these kinds of things don't happen?
Well, first of all, we're working closely with the SAPS. And we've upgraded our security, as you would expect. In fact, you know, the burglaries, it's not so much about the money, but the danger to human life, you know. I mean, we had break-ins. I don't want to mention where they were. We don't want to, you know, attract attention to these things.
Well, we already have one that is reported.
I see that, yeah, there was another one as well. There were two instances with the actual cash in transit company that also had a problem with the cash, and that was one of the glitches yesterday, that some of the cash arrived late and so on. It's become almost, I would argue, an unfortunate characteristic of our landscape, you know, that there's these cash heists and things that are happening. We've upgraded our security. We, again, as another organ of state, work very closely with the SAPS, and we are in 24-hour contact with them, and we have, you know, been able to second-guess some of the actions that are out there.
The situation in respect of your beneficiaries, very, very important. I was reading that as a result of that situation in Vryheid, people were now stranded, not able to go home. How were you able to assist in that situation?
Well, the truth of the matter is no one was stranded, ultimately. If we had a systems glitch, if we had a pay point problem, or if there was that problem, we took people to an ATM so that they could go and draw their money. Okay, we actually took them there as the Post Office SASO team. And so there was no one that was ultimately stranded.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Mark Barnes,
thank you.
the CEO of the Post Office. Thanks indeed for coming through. Thank you.